everybody, and welcome along to PSGL Season 31, and we are here at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium for the top tier. It is, of course, the Belgian Grand Prix in the Ardennes Forest. My name is Jess Ball, and joining me in the commentary box, as always on a Monday evening, is Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Jess. Thank you for having me once again. Yeah, looking forward to round 3 of the season. It's going to be really interesting at another track that's very different to what we've had so far. Yeah, really looking forward to it. I think we're both fingers crossed that potentially, hopefully, rain doesn't play a part today, because it has kind of plagued the first 2 rounds of the season. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
Yes, last week we were at Miami, of course, and we saw Santeri taking the win for that race. And interesting fact for tonight, for those of you who are wondering where Santeri's going to be, he's not racing on PlayStation anymore. He'll be racing on PC as a reserve on Thursday night. So we could see a third different race winner. Of course, we had a Philip Valters win in Austria, so Philip Valters can possibly win again. But one of our big championship contenders now out of the picture, now moving to a different platform. This could change the whole strategy in terms of rivals, basically.
Yeah, it could completely change the dynamic. It's obviously great to see Santeri go off to PC side of things and make that step up, but at the same time it's kind of a shame, isn't it? Because he had such a dominant performance last week in Miami. It was probably one of the better performances we've seen in a while from a few drivers. It's definitely a Matthew Aldrit-esque kind of performance. So not a surprise to see him move on, but a shame to see him go from when he could have had a shot at this title. So yeah, it's going to completely change the dynamic. Philip Walters then back, obviously still leading the championship after his win in a solid result in Miami last time out. But yeah, there's still plenty of people that are well within contention, people like Danerco and people like that have still had good starts to the season. So yeah, going to be a really interesting fight now that Santeri's out of it.
Yes, and speaking of championship fight, let's run you through the standings then for PSGL PSF1. So Alfa Romeo currently leading the way on Philip Valters in the Alfa Romeo, is currently leading the way on 22 points. So we got Danerco in second in the Ferrari on 16 points, getting fourth places in a row, so getting close to the Alfa Romeo Philip Valters. Then we got Rowan, who recently moved to VSR in third on 16 points as well. Santeri, who was in the McLaren, he's been replaced by Cazizl for the rest of the season. Santeri's in fourth, Asacombe in fifth, Orgiano in sixth, Jensen in seventh, who got his first podium last time out after stewards have been involved in looking at reports, and quite a few people got penalties, including Danerco, who got penalties last time out, who just missed out on the podium. Brock in 8th, Louis in 9th, and Rudy round up your top 10. And then we've got Fabi, Tom Robbo, Mish, Marco Lossu, DNF last time as well, and Fede, as well as a few drivers yet to score. So those are your drivers' standings, and I'm going to show the scene in a minute, but I think we're all both going to be very relieved. It is a dry qualifying.
Yeah, first time this season we've got a dry qualifying. Blimey, that's something to say, isn't it? Round 3 in, and at a track like Spa as well, which is probably out of the 3 we've had so far, the most like you would expect there to be rain, is the one where we've not had any rain in qualifying. We obviously don't know about the race just yet, but yeah, at least for qualifying, this is a new chance for these guys to show their pace in a dry, fast session for once. So that's a bit of a welcome change, I would say, for a lot of drivers. And looking at the championship, it's interesting, isn't it, that obviously behind Philip Walters, you've got a few people on the similar amount of points. Of course, Santeri, like we mentioned, no longer here, but you've got Rowan and Danerco right up there, having both good starts to the season as well. So, and people like Jensen that are up there that have maybe not had the pace, but picked up the points when they've needed to, that are still right within the battle as well. So yeah, it's really interesting championship dynamic very early on, and there's a couple of people I would say you got to say probably at this point in the championship a little bit out of place for where their pace has been. I think probably the standout's definitely Nemaya, isn't it? In that Aston Martin, he's qualified in the top 10 in both races, but he's just put himself on strategies that have put him at the back of the field. So he's definitely going to be one to look out for to maybe bounce back a little bit tonight.
Yes, quite a few people as well. This track is quite an interesting track, actually, 7.004 kilometres, longer than what the recommended FIA track was, but obviously the FIA gave Belgium a little bit of an exception there, and it has quite a few DRS zones, quite a few overtaking opportunities as well, and quite a few setups to watch out for as well. It's pretty a low downforce track, so don't really run 0-0. I did practice for another league race on Friday night. I ran it in time trial and during practice. Didn't work. Most people probably run about 3-4. I ran 7-7 the other day, and it was pretty good, but it was probably a little bit too stable. But I think people would probably want it a little bit more loose. So we're right on board with Jensen then in the Alpine, who got his first podium last week as he makes his way through La Source, which is currently named after a river in Spa, as you may know, as we go up the hill towards El Rouge as well, where it's been modified in the real-life version of the track, not on the game, unfortunately. There's quite a few modifications as well, which I really like, because there's been quite a few incidents in real life, to name a few WEC incidents. Don't really want to name a few more, to be honest. But heading towards La Combe DRS zone, another prime overtaking opportunity. You'll be at 5th gear as well. Watch out for the drivers using a lot of higher gears tonight as well. I think most people will prefer that, but I know a few people would want the lower gears as well. Past Brussels then, or Bruchel as the Frenchman would like to call it as well. Heading in towards the corner of No Name as well. Put that left curve into good use as well. You can use a left curve in towards Piron as well, and the right curve as well, as Wilson Hughes was pointing out earlier in the F2 stream as well. And then heading towards Campus. We'll see what his sector 2 time is in a minute, but he's won the longest laps on the calendar, and Jensen has not got his lap to a good start at all. He's lost his front wing, and well, he has to abort that lap and go into the pits. Let's see if anyone ahead of him is on a lap. We've got the 2 Haas drivers on a lap. I think Orgiano was the first one on the lap, so we'll follow him first as we head towards Blanchimont. Before that was the corner of Paul Frere as well, where we see quite a few people on ride in the past as well. Into the bus stop chicane as well, as Orgiano aborts his lap. What about Rowan, the recently promoted VSR lad who got a podium last time out? He's looking to convert it to a win this time out. First lap time on the board, 1:42.343. Don't forget, in F2, the pole time was a 1:42.1 set by Ricky. This is the first week we can actually compare lap times between tiers, which is great to see. But yeah, 1:42.1 is what you could expect people to beat. Maybe, I think, in the 1:41 tonight with this tier.
Yeah, you would say probably the high 41s is the peak maximum of where some of these drivers can get. A 0.3 for a banker lap's pretty decent actually for Rowan, who, like you said, got his first podium last time out and has had a really solid start to the season for that Haas team. So yeah, good start to the qualifying session for Rowan. Unlucky actually, I was on board with Orgiano for his lap being validated coming through curve Paul Frere, which is why he had to dive into the pit lane at the end of his run. As across the line goes Yakita now to the top of the timesheets. Yakita, I don't think has a point on the board. I don't think either Williams drivers have any points so far this season. It's been a bit of an underwhelming start after a solid season for them last season. But yeah, Yakita going to the top of the timesheets. That's kind of the first time we've really spoken about Yakita much this season. He's kind of just flown under the radar, but nice to see him now featuring at the front of the field. And one of the regulars in qualifying that's been featuring at the front recently is Asacombe. He is once again right up there in second position. But again, Asacombe, another driver that's maybe not met his potential so far this season, has had the pace, could have easily had pole in Austria, you must say, before he kind of mistimed his final run in those drying conditions. He's looked fast all season long, but hasn't got the result. I wonder if tonight is the night where he really starts to mount that championship challenge.
He was so close in Austria, got very unlucky with a few safety cars in Miami last week, which costed him some points as well. And it's all about that consistency. We saw that in the last few seasons in PSGL, PSF1, that the ones who are the most consistent were the ones who won the championship in the end. Matthew Older, for example, last season came about with a lot of wins, I have to say, last season towards the end. There was a few unlucky races, but most of the time he was up the top. So expect to see quite a lot of people up there. Just find their feet to start off with, and then if they don't get a good end to the season, then pretty much that's their championship over. Fasilio is in the middle of his lap as well. Anyone else ahead of him in the middle of their laps as well. We got Romanino, who I believe is, I think he's a reserve tonight. I will need to double check that he's not on the standing. So yeah, he is a reserve tonight. I believe he came from F9 from last season, so a big jump. I believe it's his first season with no assists, and I've seen him in the social races in other leagues as well, and he's a very quick driver, but he hasn't set a lap time on the board as he heads towards Bruchel as well. But let's watch Fusilio first as he goes through Blanchimont as well. He really got to get the power here, almost at 205 miles per hour coming up through to the bus stop chicane, but I think his setup is more suited to 200 miles per hour too. I think he's going to have enough ERS to go to the line as well, and he's going into the pit, so he's decided to abort his run. Oh, he's invalidated, but we're watching Louis right now, Aiden. He's purple in Sector 2, but that may be the game telling Porcupines. I hope it's purple Sector 2, because he's looking quite good on his run so far. He's running out of fuel, so he might abort his lap as well, but we'll have to wait and see. Louis had a good result in Austria. Didn't quite materialise in Miami, of course, which is a bit unfortunate, but we will see what he can do here as he heads towards the final few corners. He is going to finish off his lap. Is he going to take pole position from Chiquita? Let's find out from the Aston Martin driver. No, not quite. A P4 for him, just a few attempts shy of Chiquita in P1.
Yeah, good time on there, Bob, for Louis. Like you say, he was, kind of flew under the radar, but in a good way in Austria with a top 5 finish, and then flew under the radar in Miami, but in a bad way. He just kind of languished at the back with the two Williams for the majority of the race. He had a really poor qualifying and couldn't really recover from it. So it's been a bit of an up and down start to the season for Louis, but back at the front, as you would expect him to be, along with his Aston Martin teammate as well. Nemaya back up there once again. P6 in the other Aston Martin car, because this will win his first full-time race this season. I believe has raced both of the races so far, but in 2 different cars, and now it's his first full-time race this season, currently splitting the 2 Astons in 5th. So good start to his full season campaign for him. And just seeing if anybody else is on a lap at the moment. I think Ogiano is on a lap, but again, he's invalidated his time, and his time would have put him, I would say, with that middle sector, if he matched the final sector of Louis, that probably would have put him just in front of his Haas teammate onto that second row if Ogiano had completed that lap. But again, second invalidation in 2 runs, and that's already 2 set of soft compound tyres gone for Ogiano in this qualifying session, and we're only just about reaching the halfway point. So Ogiano really pushing it today so far with track limits, just seeing if anybody else is on a lap. I think Jensen is the furthest driver along on a lap at the moment, just coming through the corner with no name and down towards Poo on his first sector, pretty much. It's kind of on par with a lot of people at the front, but of course the first sector is only really about the source hairpin and the run you can get out of the hairpin. The rest of it is pretty much all flat out in a straight line as he heads through this second sector, just touching the curb on the left-hand side before he goes into that chicane, either the Lafania or campus chicane, whichever way you want to call it. I like to call it the campus chicane, as he heads through Stavelo and then to curve Paul Frere, and a 14-2 middle sector. Again on par with those at the front, the likes of Rowan and Louis, but that was on their first runs. This is on their second runs. It's hard to say, really. I think Jensen, with this lap, probably is going to slot in just behind Louis if he makes a good run of this final sector.
Yes, so we'll see what he can do, because he aborted his last run because he spun through Pouon as well through that curb. So Jensen, let's see if he can get near the top just like he did last week in Miami. P5, so only a few numbers shy of Louis, actually a few tenths shy of Louis in 4th position. Valdes came across the line in a P5, but I believe we have Jensen's teammate, Rudy, who's going through the Camel straight now, but I think there'll be a few people finishing off their runs. Now we got the Red Bull driver, it might be Facilio actually. No, it's not Facilio, he's not even in the Red Bull. Silly me, it's Fabi who's about to start his run as well. Fabi has flown a little bit under the radar these past few races. Obviously, he started with the DNF last in Austria, but he got some points in Miami, which was great to see, but not the man that I used to see from F1 last season as well. He started off quite weak, and then he ended off the season quite strong as well, so that's what we'll probably see with him, with the Red Bull driver. But I think we got more people up to the line. We'll see, I think we got an AlphaTauri driver coming up to the line, and that is Asicombe, who is a 142.295, so he stays in P2, doesn't improve on his position. We got Brock, who's about to start his run. We've got, I think, the likes of Tom. We've got, I think, Desso's about to start his run as well. Desso, who's filling in for one of the McLarens today, making his reserve debut as well. Great to see him in F1. I think he was in F1, I think, a few seasons ago. I remember commentating on him in F2 last season, and there's some races where he did very well and some races where he didn't do very well. And I think I just see someone else improve. I think Rudy improved quite a bit, and to P2 actually, so he just beat his teammate. And look at the gap now. There's Kazizzle saying that anything that Chiquita and Rudy could do, I could do better. Now Danerco has improved to 142.1. Is any more people going to improve? I think we've got some Williams cars about to cross the line. It doesn't look like it at the moment, but Danerco just missed out a podium due to penalties in the last 2 races, currently showing why he was a championship contender last season. I do believe that just beats the F2 pole time that we see, so we could see 141s coming up. I think we can.
We definitely could, yeah, we could see that coming into play later on in the session. Fabi across the line goes P9 for the time being, and I think across the line went Romanino, but I don't think he improved. Nemanja now to the front row of the grid in that Aston Martin, just over 100th of a second slower than Denurko. So a good time on the board for the Aston Martin driver. I think we've got Asacombe coming up to the line, but he's backed off by the looks of things yet and is diving into the pit lane. So that is that lap time over and done with. I was on board with Hikita actually while Denurko was going fastest. Hikita was a 10th.5 up by the end of the second sector, but I'm seeing a lot of people invalidating on the exit of the campus chicane just before Stavlo. They're really taking liberties with the chat limits there, and it's not paying off for a lot of these drivers. That seems to be the corner at the moment where most of these drivers are making these invalidations and their mistakes on their laps. A lot of drivers coming up to ends of run now. Desso then currently 15th on the grid, crosses the line, stays 15th, improves by 0.2 of a second, but doesn't improve on his position. Just seeing who hasn't set a lap time yet. Romanino, of course, debut tonight. He's on a lap at the moment, as is Orgiano, but again, for the third lap in a row, Orgiano has invalidated what looked like it could have been a decent lap. So one Haskar up at the front, Rowan is doing a solid job so far. The other driver, Orgiano, is really struggling to keep the car on the road at the moment.
Yeah, it is, and it does take a while for the tyres to warm up, maybe around this track due to the fact that it's so long and it requires pretty much more downforce than some other tracks due to the fact that the downforce is quite low, so people will be running high wings, and there will be some people that maybe have forgotten to change their time trials out, maybe running 0-0 wing, and there will be some brave little souls that will try to do it. If you can make it work, fair enough, but for a weak little soul like me, I probably wouldn't be able to do that. As Roman, I'm going to call him Roman. I can't even pronounce his name, but he comes across the line in P8, a few attempts shy of his teammate Asco. Pretty good for his debut so far in the F1 tier. We've got Fusilio as well, who's currently 13th at the moment in qualifying, 19th in the standings. Picked up one DNF in Austria. Did not score any points last time out, but at least he finished a race this time. But can he do one better and continue his form from last season and actually get some decent points? We'll have to wait and see. The driver in the 97 has reported his run, so he's going to go up one more time just a little bit later on. Roman has invalidated. Pretty much a lot of people have invalidated, so I think we only got 2 cars on the circuit at the moment. Make that 1 because Desso is going into the pits. So yeah, that is the end for this part of qualifying, and we're about to do our final runs, and I think Roman's going to go into the pit soon, so we may have a little bit of a limbo stage at the moment. Let us know in the chat, guys, on who you think is going to get pole position. Don't forget, we are sponsored by our title sponsor, GT Omega, that's provided lovely chairs for our top tier commentators, and also you can get 5% off GT Omega products by clicking the link in the description, so make sure you check that out. And also, we are partnered and sponsored by Grid Rival, and we have an F1 2022 Fantasy League, and again, you can check that link in the description. So check those 2 partners out. Without their support, really, then this league won't be the same. But we're now about to start the final part of qualifying. Jensen and H Eagle are out on runs. I want to see what H Eagle can do because he hasn't set a lap, or Giano hasn't set a lap. It's basically one-shot qualifying for them.
Pretty much, yeah. You've got to say it is one-shot qualifying for them now. This is their last opportunity. Both of them have invalidated all of their runs. Orgiano now has got to hope that there's maybe not a late safety car where everybody can pit for softs in the race, because he has used up every single set of softs now in this qualifying session, and this is the longest track on the calendar, so that is unheard of, really. It's pretty difficult to use up full sets in a regular set, in a full sets of softs in qualifying on a circuit that's much shorter than this. To do it around Spa shows that Orgiano potentially is really struggling tonight at the moment, especially with the chat limits, as Romanino has retired in the pit lane. I don't think that's a surprise. He hasn't got enough time left in the session really to get back in his pit box and back out again to do a final run. So that is his session over and done with. But P8 so far, not bad on his debut for his first race in PSGL F1. So yeah, not too bad from the AlphaTauri driver. Everybody now out on an out lap. There's going to be a lot of traffic in the final sectors. Everybody backs up for their final runs, but it is going to be H Eagle that will go for a lap first. I think it is potentially Jensen just behind on the road. Yes, it is. And Jensen, again, leaving it up to the last run. He does this quite a lot. He doesn't really like the first half of qualifying, but it seems to come alight in the second half of qualifying. So don't be surprised if we see Jensen shoot up to the front of the field with this latest run.
And don't be surprised to maybe have pole be snatched at the last minute. We saw it in Austria. Didn't quite see it in Miami because we saw Santeri get pole after his dominant performance in qualifying. Also got the win in the race as well. And in the first 2 races, we saw someone who got pole win the race. So if you get pole here tonight, chances of a win are looking pretty good. But H Eagle wants to get his season onto a good start, because he's already had a bad start to the season already. So he's got to get El Rouge Madion right, which he does. Now he's got to get this first part of the sector right, because that is where he can really gain or lose the most time around some parts of the circuit. Sector 2, I think, is where we see most people really come to terms with this circuit as they're heading towards Brussels H Eagle goes at the moment. I'm just trying to see what everyone's sectors are like at the moment. Looks like no one is going to improve so far out the ones we've seen, but you never know. Jensen's looking like he wants to improve from a 1:42.4. We saw in F2 the gaps were separated by 9/10 of a second between P1 and P20, and then we saw the top 4 separated by less than a tenth of a second. Well, we're seeing kind of something similar here, except for Mishu is down in P80. It's Jensen is out of the session. I'm just trying. He's been, I think, through Brussels, I think, as well. So that is his qualifying done. That is unfortunate. He's going to be starting no higher than P14, Adam.
Yeah, really out of position for Jensen. He actually dropped it coming out of Lecom just before Malmedy. So bit of a weird error there for Jensen. But yeah, he has binned it. And H Eagle as well has invalidated on what is actually looking like a really good run for H Eagle. I'm just going to see what the time is when he crosses the line. It's looking like a pretty decent lap for the Alfa Romeo driver, but again, it is not going to count. His first sector was lightning fast, so as he crosses the line, it was a 42.2. That would have put him, I believe, just between Nikita and Urudi, so that would have shot him up the field, but that means he is now last on the grid. Mishi will be next across the line in the Ferrari, currently without a representative time, goes third. Wow. Big improvement for him, and now it's a Ferrari 1-3 as it stands.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all, as Asakome has now gone to P1 on the timing sheet. Ooh. And now Chiquita has now gone into P1 at the moment. Let's see if anyone else could do any better. As Orgiano up to the line. Obviously, he does not improve. Oh, yes, he does improve to 1:42.187. Just look at the gaps. It's just so close indeed. We got Kazizel, his first debut as a full-time driver. Well, he's invalidated his run, so he can't improve. We'll see what Dan Erko can do. He's currently P3 at the moment. Can he get pole? Oh, yes, he can. The Ferrari drivers are definitely rocking it tonight. He's in P1. Namayak can't improve. He's backed off his run. We'll see if anyone else can. No, we got Brock down in 12th at the moment. Not where I'm expecting Mercedes to be. Wow. Brock came out of nowhere to go into pole position. He was purple in the final sector as well. That is absolutely incredible. 3,000th quicker than Dan Erko, and I think the only person that can improve is Fazilio. He's backed off, and I did say that the pole could get down to the wire. I was right, but I was not expecting it to be Brock all out of nowhere, and it just shows that if you're one of the last people out on the track around Belgium, you get the most grip and you get pole position. So, and what a close lap time between from P1 all the way down into P8, separated by less than a tenth, not even that.
That is ridiculously close for a qualifying session. The top 4 are separated by 15 thousandths of a second. That is crazy. That is a crazy close grid. And even the slightest of errors could cost you like 4 positions on this grid at the moment with how that qualifying turned out. If H Eagle had set that time and not invalidated, the entire field would have been separated by just over 0.4 of a second.
Wow.
That is incredibly close. That's surely one of the closest qualifying grids we've seen potentially ever in PSGL. That is so tight throughout the field, and you've got to say there's so many people that have actually done. You look at people like Rudy, who's only a 10th and a half off pole in a normal qualifying session, or somewhere like Miami last time out, that would have put him maybe 4th or 5th on the grid. Today that's 12th on the grid. You've got to say out of position. A lot of people out of position that haven't actually set bad laps. It was just so close that literally anything on your lap, even the slightest of moments in one of these corners, could have cost you so many places. That is, yeah, I've never seen a qualifying that close.
That is just absolutely incredible. One of the longest laps on the calendar as well, something that we both weren't expecting. I don't think any of the chat was expecting as well. Not quite in the 141s tonight, but still, we have Brock that currently leads the way for today's race in pole position. Danerka in second, Chiquito in third, a much better qualifying session for him in third. Asco in fourth, Namaya fifth, Orgiano sixth, Valter seventh, Louis eighth, Mish ninth, Cazidal 10th. Then we got Rowan, Rudy, Romanino, Marcados, Dezo, Fabi, Fazilio, Jensen, Tom and H-Eagle. Round up your grid. H-Eagle, the only driver yet to set a lap time. And before we go into the race, because we got no formation lap, let's have a quick word from our title sponsor, GT Omega. Okay, welcome back to PSGL PSF1, and if we know how that qualifying session went, well, this race is going to get even more tastier. We got an overcast weather at this moment in time around the Ardennes Forest, and we know it has the highest chance of rainfall around this circuit. Luckily, it wasn't a wet qualifying session, and we have got an unknown person of Brock that we weren't expecting starting on pole position, but we got some people chasing him down as well. We're about to get started. No formation lap then, so we are going for the 5 red lights here at PSF1 for the Belgian Grand Prix. And we are underway. Let's see who gets on the line correctly. Well, it looks like the Brock's had a good start, but Dan Erko's dropped a little bit. Look at this. Brock is pulling away from the rest of the field quite a lot. We've got a mixture of tyre strategies, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. Looks like everyone has got away okay into La Source. We got Orgiano going side by side in Dan Erko into El Rouge, and he's got the move done at the unlikeliest of places, and that just shows that you can make a move in El Rouge and make it stick, as Roman has actually binned it heading towards El Rouge with Jensen actually. So both of them had a bit of coming together. We got Brock and Orgiano side by side for the lead heading into Les Combes. Orgiano takes the lead from Brock there and is already pulling away on those soft tyres. Everyone else who's on soft is Forzilio. Interestingly enough, the Maya is not on the soft tyres. H-Eagle's on the mediums. Everyone else is on the hard tyres. We got Cazillo trying to go through side by side past there into the corner of No Name. Can he get the job done? Yes, he can, because it's all up into 11th position then in the McLaren, and he's going to try and chase down Mish for P10. A little bit of scrabbles at the back, but a bit of change for the lead. Orgiano takes the lead, but he's on the soft tyres. The soft tyres don't last long around here though, only about 5 laps.
Yeah, they don't last long, but it's a smart choice considering we've had to start, of course, without the formation lap. That means the tyre temperatures are cold, so Orgiano, we're going to get those tyres up to temperature much quicker than everybody else, as is Fusilio, who is working his way through the field nicely from the back of the grid up to 11th position now in that Williams. So he's made up 6 places at the start. Orgiano's made up 5 places as well. So yeah, I think maybe a smart choice for them, especially if there is any inclement weather coming with this overcast conditions. But I think the fact that other people are on hard suggests to me that we're not going to be having any weather anytime soon, as Philip Wouters trying to find a way through on Nemaya into the bus stop, but not quite close enough. I think the one time I would have expected Nemaya to be on a different strategy was today. That's not the case. He's gone with the same as pretty much the majority of the field. So played it safe this time around, but you can already see Orgiano, he managed to build up that 1.4 second gap, but it's kind of remained a little bit stagnant now. So I think the hards are now just starting to warm up for everybody else further down the field. Rudy and Kazizel running side by side on the run down towards Eau Rouge and Radio. One of these two is going to have to back out of this move, and it's going to have to be Rudy, but Kazizel understeers at the middle of Radion. I think he's just going to hold on, and Marcados now trying to make it 3 wide on the run down the Kemmel straight. I think Rudy's going to get boxed in here. There's not really a gap for him to go through. Can Marcados maybe get the pair of them around the outside in towards the Les Combes chicane? No, he's forced onto the curb by Kazizel. Kazizel holds on, but Marcados, great drive in there, saw that one coming and managed to nick a place from it.
That was very good for Marcados, a driver who I think really has a point to prove, because there's some people that think that he shouldn't be in PSF1. Well, he's definitely proven today with the moves he's been making as well from Rudy. So Marcados is in 13th position. We'll see how many positions people have gained since the start. Obviously, Orgiano's had the best start of anybody, up 5 places. Basilio up 7, H-Eagle up 5 as well. Don't forget he's starting in the back of the grid after not saying a lap time. Meanwhile, Rowan going side by side into Pouon of all places. But it's Fusilio going to get the switchback, and well, it's not Pouon actually, it's Paul Frey. Looks, the corners look exactly similar on the onboard shot, but it is 3-1 of the Stabilos. Anyway, as they're rowing up to 10th place at the moment, as Fusilio has increased his gap to 9th place, and he's going to try and get past Louis for 8 into the bus stop chicane. He's got a lot of slipstream, don't forget, so I wonder if he's running a high downforce setup. It looks like it at this moment in time as we head towards the bus stop chicane now. Can he hold his line? He is holding his line. He's up 9 places now, the most positions gained out of anybody in this race so far. The Williams driver is up to 8th and doing better than the Williams drivers in real life. He's in purple in the final set, as quick as out of anybody so far, so he's got a point to prove at this moment in time. We've got the likes of Brock Danerko who's got a point to prove after losing quite a lot of places. And will we see some rain come into play here in Belgium, or will we see a completely dry session? Well, we don't know, because the tyre strategies say otherwise. But DRS is activated for all the drivers. Brock can't use the DRS because he's 1.5 seconds back, but we got the likes of Danerko, Chiquita, Azako, Namaya all in that DRS train. Valve just could have taken the opportunity, but he didn't. We're just like last week, isn't it? They're saving their battery, their deployment when they need it most, because you don't want to use it too much in the race, because otherwise you'll have none to use towards the end of the race where positions pretty much matter most.
Yeah, now that they've kind of got those hard temperatures, those hard tyres up to temperature, and it's all settled down, now it's just a case of just trying to settle into a rhythm at this point in the race. I think Fusilio there, I think that was a smart move from Fusilio. Was Lewis had a spin, I think. Yeah, Lewis had a spin at Pouon. I think it's maybe touched the curb on the inside and dropped the car. Doesn't look to be any visible damage from our end of things, but that has dropped Louis all the way down to the back of the field with Momninho and Jensen, who spun on the opening lap. So after a solid qualifying and a decent start to the race, Louis' hard work is undone very early on in this race and now down to 18th, which is a shame. But yeah, like I was saying, for Fusilio, starting down at the back of the field, hadn't had a good start to the season. No points on the board for either Williams cars. I think it was a smart move for him to do something a little bit different and go on the softs now, give himself the track position. If there is an early safety car, he can massively benefit it and pit for the hards now and potentially go to the end of the race, whereas everybody else will have to make a pit stop. Or he can just go the natural strategy and go onto the hards in a few laps' time and hope that he can just hold on to a set of points, as Rowan, interestingly, fastest lap of the race on the hard tyres. So I think it's fair to say the hard tyres are now fully up to temperature.
Yes, and the most important point is that the softs are starting to die. The crossover period between the softs, mediums and hards is now. You're starting to see the soft runners really start to struggle, especially with Basilio. Orgiano doing a lot better, but we'll keep an eye on the gap between Brock and Orgiano in a few laps' time to see if that makes a difference. We'll expect quite a few people to go into the pit very shortly, and I will expect quite a few people to go onto the hard tyres from the soft tyres. And I think we got some more moves in the background. That was quite tight between a lot of cars as well with that DRS train. They just can't seem to be making moves at the moment due to the cold temperatures still on those hard tyres. Nobody's had some major problems yet, no front wing damage, but I may have jigged myself, so I'm not really going to say anything more, as Tom has had a horrific start to this race so far, down in 16th position. He's saying that he's struggling a little bit tonight, but he's obviously got a point to prove as well after not scoring that many points last week. He was expecting to be on the podium or even win the thing in the first two races, but he has bought it both times on the final few laps. But maybe he's just playing it a little bit more cautious in this evening's race, as we can already see the gap between Orgiano and Brock start to come down. He is almost within DRS range, Orgiano is, Brock now, and I think that strongly suggests that the soft tyres are not the best condition for Orgiano right now.
Yeah, I think they are just now starting to wear off. So, yeah, he's going to come under a bit of pressure now from Brock. And it's a bit of a switch around at Mercedes, isn't it? First two races, you said that the Toms had the pace in the first two races and Brock's had the bad luck and been towards the back of the field. It's completely switched for this race by the looks of things. Tom didn't qualify well. Brock obviously on pole position. So once they get both cars at the front running at the front, they've got the pace to do so. They could be major threats in the manufacturers, but as of right now, they haven't really got a clean race on the board with either driver. Like you say, Tom could have easily won last time out in Miami, but spun late on in the race out of contention. So yeah, they're still already on. They're pretty much already on a rebuild phase in this championship after a disappointing first two rounds of the season. Just seeing if anybody else is close to a move. I don't think there is. I think Mishi though is a bit of a problem here. He's dropped off the back of Rowan in 9th place, so he's potentially going to be a bit of a cork in the bottle for those behind. The pack seems to have just split in two now, ever so slightly, almost perfectly down the middle. The pack has split, but yeah, it's split now behind the Ferrari driver, and Kaziz will be the first driver to have a go, and that is of course for the last points position in this race so far. I'm keeping an eye on Fusillo's pace. While Oggiano is just starting to fall back into the clutches of Brock, Fusillo is still holding good pace at the moment in P8 and that Williams car. The softs don't seem to be... He doesn't seem to be understeering or oversteering. The car doesn't look like it's a handful, although he could completely obliterate track limits on the outside of Pooh on that time around. He is still not too far behind Philip Wouters, so I would have expected... I think with the form we've seen so far from him this season, and considering where he qualified, you would probably have expected Fusillo to drop off the back of Philip Wouters by now and be under pressure from Rowan. But so far that's not the case, so he's not struggling too much, and that bodes well. Maybe if he can extend these tyres maybe to about that 7, maybe like 8, he can go for a set of hards and go to the end. That doesn't take him out of contention at all. He can still be right in the hunt for some points today.
Yes, and it is quite a shorter season compared to the last few seasons as well, so you've got to hit the ground running from the early stages of the season, and Belgium is usually at the early parts of the season. I think that's where we start to see the championship contenders really start to come into fruition as well, but we may see some surprises halfway through the season, so watch out for that, because it's going to get quite intense at the moment. But I think Fusillo is doing a marvellous job as well, but I think we're starting to see the Fusillo train in from 8th downwards, and then the Oggiano train starts to form as well, but Oggiano has increased the gap a little bit, so I think he's got some more grip in his tyres at the moment. But we're riding on board with Rowan as he got past Fusillo. As I said that, as I think Fusillo will be pitting soon, so I think the hard tyres have so much more grip, more condition. Obviously it's more durable, it lasts a bit longer into this race. H Eagle gets going on the insider because it's all into Lecom up into 11th place, and now he's going to battle with Michi for the final points paying position as well, and he's got the medium tyres, so there will be the fastest tyre out of all the tyres right now, so he's going to try and gain some advantage, but he's not gaining that much advantage on some of the drivers right now, so he really needs to pick up the pace if he wants to get some points today, because I believe he hasn't scored any points all season. He came closer in the last time out in Miami, but I think this could be the race where he could get close. No penalties so far from any of the drivers, which is great to see. They're all keeping it within track limits. Don't be surprised to see there are a few warnings already, as I think I've seen a few people gone wide in a few occasions on the track, in particularly Piron is one of them so far. We're riding on board with Brock at the moment. He's just so close to Oggiano. I think it's a question of when, really, not if he's going to get Oggiano right now. So Oggiano will pit soon. If not, Brock will just have the best condition tyre just to go for a move. But look at his ERS as well. He's been saving a lot because he knows Oggiano is not the best condition. Or they make a bit of contact as well. But Oggiano goes into the pit. So he's going to go onto the hard tyres, I presume. If you go on the mediums now, it won't make it to the end. I tried that and I regretted it to save my life because I was on 50% and I think I was on lap 17 or something. But anyway, Oggiano's the first man to make his mandatory pit stop, and that means Brock is in the lead of this race, but look who's chasing him, Dan Urco.
Yeah, Danerco right behind Brock now, and I think Brock just a little bit held up in that final sector has put Danerco right on the mat. Does Danerco use the ERS to get past? Yes, he does. He's got a bit in reserve, just the same as Brock does, and he's just going to breeze past down the Kemmel Straight. That's a nice, easy move on the run into Lecom, so he now leads the races. There's a spin at the back. That is Marcados, who's had a spin at the top of Radion. I don't know if that is with contact with another driver. I haven't seen anybody else pick up any damage, but a bit of a weird place to spin at this point in the race. You'd maybe expect it on cold tyres, as Louis is the first driver to pick up a time penalty in that Aston Martin, compounding what's been a rough race so far for the Aston Martin driver. But yeah, a bit of a weird place to spin for Marcados, especially considering he's not really on cold tyres at the moment. As looking at strategies, Fusillo has ignored your advice and has gone for those medium compound tyres, which is a very interesting choice. I think Fusillo is just trying every trick in the book to see if he can get the points today.
Yeah, he is, and maybe he's probably hoping for a late safety car, because safety cars are quite common in PSGL Belgium. I've seen it in many Belgian races, in many tiers. I think PCF2 was one of them last Thursday. Got a bit chaotic as well. Let's just hope the driving standards are a lot better here in PSF1, but it seems to be all right so far. But I have seen, I think, drivers be very brave, actually, and do soft to mediums before, but it does depend on your tyre management and your pace as well, and your setup choices. But obviously, they are the top drivers for a reason. He probably has gone it for a reason as well. But if he makes it work, fair enough. If he does not, and there's no safety car, well, he's going to be in a lot of trouble come the end of the race. We'll see what H Eagle does when he goes to the pits. Will he do the opposite to what Fusillo does and go on the soft at the end of the race and hope for late safety car? Or there may be some other things on the horizon which we may not know about as of yet as to why Basilio has gone on to a set of the medium tyres. But meanwhile, we got Markados, who's now out of this race, who's retired in the pit lane, so he decided to call it a day. That's another DNF to add to his DNF list. I think that's 2 this season already, which is a shame, and that just adds to his really bad season so far in F1. What a shame. That's not what you want to do at the pinnacle of PSGL.
No, it's a shame to see people give up on a race, especially when we're not even halfway through. There could be a safety car that could bring you back into contention, but yeah, he's clearly just given up on the spot, which is a real shame to see. So yeah, that is Markados out of the race and the only retirement so far. H equals definitely an interesting one because on those mediums he's still got decent pace, managed to get past Mish on a couple of laps ago, and that's dropped the Ferrari pretty considerably already by 1.5 seconds. Can he catch this train in front? It's been hovering around 2.2, 2.3 seconds pretty much the last lap or so, but he is ever so slightly gaining on these hard runners in front. Of course, the difference in pace between the mediums and the hards is only going to get smaller and smaller as the race goes on, so H equals got to try and get there now, and he doesn't have a lot of ERS to do so. If they start fighting just a little bit in front, there is the potential that H eagle could catch this train and then become a real threat later on, especially if he does what you mentioned and potentially goes long and goes to the softs for the end. So that's going to be definitely something interesting to keep an eye on with that Alfa Romeo driver. He stays out for another lap, so he's continuing on those tyres. He's in a bit of no man's land at the moment in between the 2 DRS trains as it stands. I'm just looking to see at the front of the field, Brock is sitting nice and comfortably right behind Janerko, but again, Janerko not using his ERS, not pushing. He's just saving himself at this point in the race. He doesn't need to push too hard. We're not into the halfway point yet, so just keep it in the lead, and if Brock wants to go for the move, he can go for it. He can always come back later on. If you see the fastest lap of the race, not really surprised considering the tyres he's on.
Yeah, he's on the medium tyres, which is around 6/10 faster than the hard compounded tyres there as well. Has Brock again being a little bit patient, but Valtters wants to go for the move straight away down the inside. As we got Nemanja that's gone off the circuit as well, and luckily he's behind him, so he hasn't gained much of an advantage. But I wonder, has he been pushed off the circuit? I don't know. I think that's something for the stewards to look on, because we can't really judge on that. It was really hard to tell as well, but did either of them give each other room as well, or did one person have more room than anybody else? Again, that will be up to the stewards, obviously, if the stewards, well, if the drivers decide to report it, of course, because they may think it's okay, but I think Nemanja won't be too happy with that he was going to go for a move. Got blocked from maybe Valtters potentially, or even Nemaja's blocked Valtters from pretty much going on the defence. I don't have a clue, but again, Valtters stays in 5th. Nemanja will probably get him on the next lap. That does invite Rowan once again for a chance to get both of these drivers into 5th and 6th. He could get 2 positions here as well, but he's being a little bit patient. He's got a few podiums this season. He's looking to add to another one. He's in 7th, so I think he's just playing the patient game, hoping for anybody else to make a mistake, which is quite common around here. We have seen major pile-ups for mistakes, as Rowan has gone for an early pit stop. Now, I've seen people gone for medium pit stops on lap 10 before on this game as well, but it's a bit risky. But we know Rowan is quite quick as well. Maybe he can just get some clear air, save his tyres potentially on the first few laps, and then start to push towards the end. Or maybe he's also hoping for a safety car to bring him back into the mix. So he's early on to those medium tyres, because Izzle's in, Fabi's in, Jensen is in as well. I was expecting, I think, lap 12, 13 for the drivers to go onto a set of mediums. They're going now, so will this mean Janerko and Brock have to respond?
Yeah, potentially. I think Rowan is just trying to force their hand at the front of the field here. I think this is just too early of a pit stop for the medium compound tyres. Only go 9 laps on the hards and then expect to do 13 on the mediums. I think is a bit of a push for Rowan. I think these tyres aren't going to be great. I mean, Fusilio isn't going to be great in front either on those tyres. So I don't know for Rowan. I think he's just trying to force those in front of him into making a pit stop. That little battle between Valtters and Nemanja actually got Rowan back in DRS range. He had just lost it before that straight. So he was quite lucky to get back within DRS range. I think he's just trying something here, maybe because he knows he doesn't quite have the raw speed of the top 6 in this race. So we'll keep an eye on how it goes for him. He is out behind Fusilio, so Fusilio has net gained in this pit stop phase, but not by a lot. So we'll keep an eye if anybody else comes into the pit lane. I think Nemaja's dropping off the back of this queue, so I would not be surprised if we see Nemanja come into the pit lane to react to Rowan's pit stop. I doubt we'll see any of the top 5 react, though. I think they know that they've potentially got the pace to just drive past those drivers that have pitted early if they stay out for another lap. In fact, I completely lied. They're all coming in, apart from Asacombe. Asacombe is the only one that stays out. The rest of them have all reacted to Rowan's pit stop. I wonder if Asacombe here is going to go long and try and have the fresher tyres at the end so that he can try and get through this field a little bit easier.
Or potentially, he may do the opposite to the likes of Presidio. Go on a set of soft tyres towards the end of the race, maybe. Stretch those tyres long. It can last, I think, 15, 16 laps on those set of hard tyres. Maybe more, maybe less as well. Or maybe, again, he wants to know that his mediums will be more durable and be more quicker towards the end of the race. What would you do? Let us know in the chat as well and in the comments as well if you're watching this back, of course. All your support is much appreciated as well, as we've got Tom has gone side by side in to Lecom there. Very easy does it with the DRS. Up into third position as well. I think we've got some more movers and shakers in the background as well. And despite Rowan being on the much colder tyres and trying to get his tyres up to temperature, Rowan is a quicker driver and he's up into 10th position. So he's just showing that his strategy is working a lot better. But I think we're seeing Basilio's warm tyres really coming into full advantage here. Through Brussels, then heading towards No Name very, very soon as well. As I think we are starting to see Valdes and Basilio battle to the death at the moment, as I think Valdes has got past him. So I think Rowan and Valdes' tyres, I think, are a lot better compared to Basilio's now at the moment. But I think Basilio's dropped down to an 11th position. But bearing in mind, guys, there's quite a lot of people that have not pitted yet. The top 5 are yet to make their stop. They'll either go onto a set of mediums or go onto a set of the soft tyres. Meanwhile, Fabi goes went side by side with H Eagle there through Stabilo 1 and now heading towards Paul Frere. Fabi and H Eagle make their merry way as Asako. It's not what I'm going to do, what I thought. He's going to go into the pits now and go onto a set of mediums. Is Tom going to do so? No, he does not. Rudy does so though. Louis does not. He stays out. I believe, yes, he does stay out. Deso comes in, so 2 drivers yet to make their mandatories. Everyone else has come in, so let's watch. I'm going to watch who was the first person to, I think it was Rowan actually, the one to watch out for the medium runners as well. See what they come out of, and that's very close between the pair of them as well. Asacombe, I think, has just come out of Rowan as well, but don't forget cooler tyres, so can Rowan use his warmer tyres to full effect, or will he be in the same position as what Basilio was a few laps ago? So he's got the DRS as well, but he's got less ERS as well. He hasn't used his ERS to potential here on this lap, and I think that's really put him at a disadvantage. Chiquita as well stays in 5th position, and we're seeing Dan Urco is now your net race leader out of the ones who have made their pit stop. Orgiano a net P2, Chiquita a net P3, Ascombe a net P4, and I think Namara has picked up another penalty. So the only people with penalties, Aiden, are the 2 Aston Martin drivers.
Yeah, it's just kind of story of their season so far. They've had a lot of pace, but just mistakes and errors for them have put them not where they needed to be. By the way, one person who's going to be livid at that whole pit stop phase is Brock. I was watching that Mercedes car. He was net second coming into the pit lane phase. He got held up horribly in the pit lane. His car just basically came to a stop in the fast lane and letting other cars out. So he has dropped, well, best part of 6 positions in the pit stop phase and out of the DRS train. So yeah, Brock incredibly unlucky in that pit stop phase, and Merck's bad luck this season just continues so far. And again, Denurco, this has played beautifully into Denurco's hands, managed to come out ahead of Orgiano on the hards. Yukita could not do the same, and now Yukita is stuck behind this Haas for at least another lap. He's going to have to get the move done down towards the source this time around, but he's already 2 seconds back from the Ferrari, so Denurco now has a pretty solid lead ahead of Yukita. It's going to take a mistake from Denurco or incredible pace from the Williams to knock Denurco off this potential top spot. So yeah, this has played beautifully into Denurco's hands, with everybody else getting stuck behind the Haas and Brock getting held in the pit lane.
So we could see the first race in 3 races where we see the person who started the race on pole, Brock, not win a race. So I think Dan Urco wants to break the curse here tonight here at Spa-Francorchamps, 7.004 kilometres, as Orgiano has been very unlucky from that being passed by Ascombe and Chiquita, as Valters wants to take advantage of Orgiano's mistake there, past Lecom and heading towards Bruxelles right now, obviously named after Brussels, as we English like to call it, the capital city of Belgium. And this is also a track that the Dutchmen like to go and cheer on a certain Max Verstappen as well. Max Verstappen has quite a few home tracks, as a few Dutchies as well here at PSGL PSF1. So they're hoping to do well for their home country, and the Orange, pretty much Orange Army are here at full force as well. The Papaya, if you're obviously McLaren fans, of course, but the McLaren's not doing too well down in 12th and 19th at the moment, but at least both of them are still in this race and are not giving up. Tom stretching the gap to 2.4, but still yet to make a stop, but praying for that late safety car for them to go back in this. But to be honest, it's not really going to make a difference. It's yellow flag, and I might have jinxed it, as we got an AlphaTauri that had a bit of a spin, unfortunately. That was Romanano actually, and that was yellow flag in sector 2. So he's now out of the race. So no safety car though. I was expecting a safety car, but I think he was off the circuit, I think, for an end near Paul Frere. So yeah, I was quite surprised. I think Tom and Louis was hoping for a late safety car, but unfortunately not meant to be.
Yeah, I was going to say Tom and Louis were hoping that was probably the lifeline they wanted, but yeah, it didn't happen. That was a bit bizarre we didn't get a safety car for that, I would say. But yeah, Tom and Louis are going to be a little bit upset that nothing came out for that one. That could have put them right back into position to score some points in this race. By the way, Fusilio on his strategy is now just plummeting back through the field on those older medium tyres. And this is the worry now. These tyres, as Philip Wouters breezes past Ogiano and up into 6th position.
Misha's
got another
out!
yellow flag. Misha's out now. Misha's out at the top of Rayon. There we go. There's the safety car. So we didn't get the safety car for the first incident, but give it half a minute and the safety car has come out on the next lap. So that is a saving grace for Tom, who has obviously gone long on this set of tyres in hopes of a safety car. He can now pit and put on, if he's got a fresh set of soft compound tyres left, he can get those softs to the end of the race from here. They're not going to be great at the end, but they will have great initial pace at the safety car restart. So Tom can come in, put a set of softs on, and with the likes of Fusilio and Nemaya down in 10th and 11th, Fusilio on old tyres and Nemaya with a penalty, Tom here has got a great chance of throwing himself into points contention from the back of the grid.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say that's thrown Tom and Louis a lifeline, definitely, as well. And I think if you do have fresh softs, and if you're on the back like Jensen, Deso, H-Eagle, if I were you, go into the pits at the moment. What has happened to Ogiano there?
Oh, he's crashed.
Oh, he's crashed.
He's crashed under the safety car. He's got no front wing.
He's got no front wing. He's done well, I can't remember how many people crashed under the safety car. George Russell is one of those drivers who crashed in the safety car in Imola. Sorry to all George Russell fans, but there we go. And unfortunately, we may get a Delta glitch because of that, which I experienced, I think, a few nights ago as well. But we're seeing, like we said, Tom and Louis come into the pit. I had a safety car around about this time in the league race on Friday. It was pre-season, bearing in mind. I went on the softs. It was fine on the first few laps, but towards the end, they were absolute hell. So we will have to wait and see then. And Louis is not... None of them are going to do what we said. Okay.
Wow.
That is why we're in the commentary box, Aiden, and they're in the cockpit.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that, if I'm completely honest. There's at least only going to be... I don't think the safety car can come in at the end of this lap. I think it has to stay out for at least one full lap with a pack behind it. So if that's the case, it would come in at the end of lap 16, and the start of 17 would be the first green flag lap. That would put 6 laps on a set of soft compound tyres. We saw the likes of Ogiano and Fusilio go 6 laps at the start of this race on the softs, and that was on heavy fuel. So I'm surprised that the likes of Tom, especially with Tom being now 7th in this race with all the other people that pitted, why Tom has not gone for a set of soft compound tyres to at least maybe gain places early on the likes of Kazizel and Brock and hold on. I'm not quite sure, because I don't think the pace difference between a fresh set of mediums and a 3 or 4 lap set of mediums is that big, and I don't think Tom's really going to make that much of an impression because of it. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by Tom's choice there. Same with Louis as well, a little bit surprised by that. I'm also surprised that H-Eagle hasn't come in and is now stayed out on that set of hard compound tyres in 9th. He is going to be a sitting duck at the safety car restart with everybody behind on fresh tyres, Louis on mediums, and then Rowan, Fusilio, Fabi, Nemaya, Deso on softs, Ogiano on mediums, and Jensen at the back on softs as well. So yeah, a lot of fast people further down the field that you would say are probably going to pick off the likes of Rudy and H-Eagle pretty quickly. And I think the one person that's gained out of this the most as well is Fusilio, because without the safety car, I think it's fair to say that he probably would have plummeted right to the back of the field with the tyres he was on.
Yeah, definitely. And we are seeing a varying strategy from 11th downwards. Now, I'm surprised Rowan has gone in, actually. I thought he would have stayed out, but I'm guessing he didn't want to be a sitting duck like H-Eagle, perhaps, and wanting to be on the freshest compounded tyres, the softest compounded tyres. Fusilio's on the softs, Fabi's on the soft, Namaya, unsurprisingly, has gone for the soft compounder tyres. So he has gone on the soft tyres in today's race, just not at the start of the race. He's going towards the end of the race. Let's hope he doesn't get any damage. Desso's on the soft as well, and so is Jensen now. Jensen and Desso did exactly what we said because they were near the back, go onto the soft tyres. I'm surprised Oggiano didn't go onto a set of the soft tyres, but there you go. He could technically still, to be fair, go on a set of softs now and probably will be the freshest tyre available. If I was him, you're near the back anyway, nothing to lose. You're going to catch up to the safety car anyway. No, he's not going to do that. Excuse my theory there, but he is staying out on a set of mediums then. So let's run through your order then before the safety car come in, which should be at the end of this lap then. So we got Dan Urko in P1 at the moment. Let's get positions gained actually. Whilst we do that, there we go, up one position from his starting position. He started second. Chiquita started third, he's up to second. Asacombe started fourth, up to third. Philip Valters, I believe, started sixth or seventh, he's up to fourth. Brock's down 4 places, he started pole, remember, and he's down to fifth. Cazillo's up 4 places, up to sixth. Tom up 12 places, up to seventh. So with him pitting during that safety car, you lose less time under the safety car. That has really helped him, and don't forget he started in the back of the grid just like H. Eagle did. Rudy gained 4 places up to 8th. H. Eagle gained 11 up to 9th. Louis down to 10th. Rowan's the only driver, as well as Desso, to stay where they are and not gain positions. They're hoping to still get some points this race, because anything can happen in Formula 1. It usually does with these type of safety cars. Fazilia up 5, he's up to 12th. Fabi's up to 13th, he's up 3 places. Namaya and Oggiano down 9 and 10 positions respectively, and down to 14th and 16th. And Jensen up 1 place, because Jensen didn't have the best of qualifying and retired early on then. So it's hard to predict who I think is going to do well. I originally think Dan Urko was going to win this race before the safety car, but now we've got a safety car. I literally can't call it now, because everyone's now bunched up as well. Dan Urko's got a hell of a job to try and keep these guys behind, but you know, he was close to winning the championship last season. He's going to try and do it and make sure he has the advantage. Going on to the bus stop chicane, and he's already holding the field up quite considerably as well. Is the safety car going to come in this lap? Yes, it does. Through Paul Freight usually comes down as well. It will be up to Dan Urko to lead his field away. And will anyone get caught up by the restart, or will everyone behave themselves?
Hopefully they do behave themselves, but you've got to keep an eye on H. Eagle Avenue. He's going to be the one most under threat under the safety car restart, so that's going to be the interesting point here further down the field, is what H. Eagle can do, if he can do anything to hold on here. And if Tom's medium tyres do have any sort of pace advantage, I don't think they will, but they could have something maybe at the end of the race, maybe if the drivers in front starts to struggle, so that's another thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah, so let's watch Dan Urko. Let's see how he times this restart as we head towards the bus stop chicane then for lap 17. Very, very soon. We're on lap 16 at the moment. And look at that. Dan Urko's already pulled away quite significantly already. I thought he was going to do it before the bus stop chicane. He did it way before the bus stop chicane as well. We'll see if there are any movers and shakers, who has gained the most and who has not gained the most. Look at Brock. He's losing a bit of time to Valters as well. Valters has gained quite significantly from Brock, unfortunately, but we're seeing Louis trying to go down the inside into that sort of named after a river, believe it or not, and H. Eagle is definitely a sitting duck. Here comes Rowan, who's gaining a position up there as well, and don't be surprised that Brasilio will gain as well. Don't forget that the softs are considerably faster than the hards right now, so we'll see what Brasilio can do. But at the moment, Tom trying to keep up with his pace advantage on the fresher mediums compared to Cazillo, and he's done that just fine, up into 6th position, and he's now chasing down with his teammate for P5 as well. And I think we're starting to get to the norm now, Aiden, with Tom being the quicker driver and Brock being maybe the sitting duck at the moment. But we'll have to wait and see, can Brock help his teammate, or can Brock maybe just fight with his team? I hope we get to see these two fight just like the Mercedes do in real life. Remember 2014 where we see Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton fight in Bahrain, and we also saw the two Mercedes guys of George Russell and Lewis Hamilton fight in the Hungarian Grand Prix as well. This is a deja vu of both of those times, but we don't want to see what happened in Spain 2016. We don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that instance or this track in Spa in 2014. Of course, they come together. That was probably the first time they came together as teammates. So that was one thing they would definitely want to forget. But yeah, that was an interesting safety car restart. Danako kind of caught everybody napping. Nobody was really anywhere near any of the other cars. As further down the field, Fusilio on the back of H-Eagle, hasn't found a way through, and look at H-Eagle already 1.5 seconds behind Rowan. Those hard tyres, they've got absolutely no pace at all. I'm baffled as to why H-Eagle did not decide to pit under that safety car.
Look at Louis!
Round the outside of Rudy here, round the outside into the bus stop chicane, make that the inside for the final part. Can he get the run out of the corner? They're still side by side, and does Rowan think about trying to capitalise on this one? Louis is going to try and maybe switch to the inside for the Lasource hairpin, dives it down the inside, and Rowan behind almost, well, does run into the back of the Alpine and then forces the Alpine a little bit wide. I don't think Rudy's going to be too happy about that one, and I don't know if Rowan's picked up any front wing damage. That was pretty hefty contact with the rear of the Alpine. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. But Louis and Rowan marching their way forwards as it stands.
We got the two Mercedes fighting side by side, and we'll see if Brock can hold this from Tom, or will Tom be able to get this move done easy. It looks like not much fighting from Brock there. Tom just had that little bit of extra traction coming into Les Combes there, so Tom is up into 5th place, and maybe that fighting just did not help them at all, because Valtters has already pulled away from them. But now Tom's back in this DRS train. The game is on for the Shizou driver. Can he afford... well, he can't afford to lose P5, because the last 2 races he was in this position, or even a better position, and got into a spin. So maybe he's just minding his own business, making his way through the field and seeing what he could do. It just shows how quick of a driver that he is. He did benefit from the safety car, to be fair, but sometimes you need luck in the sport as well as skill. But you have to have both. You can't have just the luck and without no skill. You have to have the luck and the skills. H-Eagle down into 17th place. Well, we did say H-Eagle was the man to watch in that safety car restart, and I think that just shows why you shouldn't have been on the hard tyres towards the end of this race. And chances are of him getting some points in this race is pretty much gone now. What a shame, because I think he's one of the only drivers to not score a point this season.
Yeah, it's a real shame now that we've got the Williams starting to perform again. He's one of those ones that's standing out as not having any points. He had a bit of contact with Nemaya, but I think it's kind of on H-Eagle, that incident. I caught it from my side of things. I think he was just desperately trying to hold on to the position when the Aston and just drove too deep into the campus chicane and forced himself wide. So, yeah, not really much that Nemaya could have done to avoid that situation, and that's dropped him now off the back of Fabi. And Fabi here now, from relative obscurity, is right on the back of Fusilio, who was not far behind Rudy. So Fabi here in the Red Bull could steal a point at the end of this race, just like he did in Miami last time out. It's a very similar run, and he's got the run in a straight line. It's further up the field. Tom breezing past Wouters in a straight line now, so those medium tyres are making a difference. I didn't think they would make this much of a difference, but they seem to be working quite nicely for the Mercedes driver. He's through now and up into 4th. Can he find his way past Asacombe and Nikita and have a run at Dinoco? He's got to get past Asacombe, well, by the end of this lap or the start of the next lap, and then Nikita the very next lap after, if he wants to have a run at Dinoco on the final lap of the race. As further down, Rowan gets the move done on Louis, or does he? They're side by side through no name. I don't know how they got away with that. That was great racing, and Rowan, lovely move around the outside and is up into 8th place. So a good recovery, considering that he pitted from about 5th place in this race onto those soft compound tyres, but still not quite where he was before the safety car came out.
He was going to hope that he was going to have the advantage, but he's not quite having the advantage at the moment, but he's gained a lot of positions from it as well. So he's got to really get the positions done this lap, because the next lap is where the tyres really start to die from this point on as well. It's only meant to last 7 laps, and optimally it only lasts 5 laps. So really, Rowan has just got to get his head down, because otherwise the likes of Louis will start to come back. Even Louis is still keeping on with this DRS train of Rowan being the lead a bit as well. So he's got to be very, very careful indeed. Meanwhile, at the front, Danico still leading Chiquita by almost 6/10 of a second, and Asacombe in 3rd position. Not quite for the podium that he, not quite the win that he wanted, as Oggiano has retired from the session in the pit lane. Not really surprised, his day has gone from bad to worse. No safety car, because A, he's in the pit lane, and B, it will be a little bit too late. I think we got some battle on our hands here down the Camel Straight, so we're heading towards Les Combes now. Is anyone going to make a dive around the inside? Nope, they're not. All 4 of them are just so tight. Literally any one of those 4 drivers can win this race. And don't count out the Austria race winner, Valtters, for this race win as well. If any of those 4 make a mistake, Valtters could be like, yoink, I could get P1 from you, no problem. But Tom wants to go for first, Azicon wants to go for first, so is Chiquita as well. But Danico has got the most pressure out of anyone. No DRS. He's got plenty of ERS, so less pressure for him. I'm seeing what everyone else's DRS is like. I think the one who's got the least DRS is Tom, so I think the one to worry about is Tom out of the top 3.
Yeah, he's definitely the one to worry about, and I think Tom is kind of forcing the issue here, isn't he? With the pace he's got, he's trying to get a move done on Asacombe, and Asacombe in defence is almost having to make a move on Nikita, and then Nikita in defence is almost having to make a move on Denurko. So Tom's really trying to force the issue with this top three and make one of them make a move at the end of this race. But I think someone like Nikita doesn't want to make the move now. He wants to wait until the final lap so that Denurko can't have a run back as there's a yellow flag. That is Jensen, who's had a spin coming out of curveball Freya, what has been pretty much a nightmare tonight for Jensen in that Alpine. He's not had a good qualifying or a good race whatsoever, so not the start to the season that Jensen potentially would have wanted. He's not really shone so far as maybe some people were expecting. As we're looking now, Asacombe kind of weaving about a bit on the pit straight, maybe trying to force Nikita into a little bit of a mistake, but Nikita this time around is much closer to the back of Denurko. Does he go for the move now and then try and hold on the final lap, or does he wait for an opportunity on the final lap? I think with Asacombe being so close, I don't think he can wait, because Asacombe here will pounce on Nikita if Nikita doesn't go for Denurko. Look at the straight line speed of that AlphaTauri. He's turned off his ERS, so I think they're just going to sit behind for the time being. Yep, they're going to sit behind. And Tom, I think, must have made a mistake out of the source, because he's now dropped to a second back.
Yes, he drops out that DRS train just a little bit now, which has allowed Valtters to get back in this fight as well. No penalties for our top four at the moment, so this is a fight for the race victory. But yeah, Asacombe was going to go for it, but he realised that if he did went for it, he wouldn't have the ERS for the final lap of this race. Another yellow flag, that is Jensen once again who's binned it. That's the second time in a few laps, unfortunately, for him, and I think that's just another driver that what could have been for him, and we'll hope that he has a much better race next week when we head to Mexico City. As we got a change for P2, as Chiquita, well, he's been caught napping. Asacombe is up into second place. That has been given a gift, an open invitation for Denurko to really start to put a hammer down to win this whole thing. I think Asacombe did a brilliant job there, but I think all the fighting has not helped the likes of Chiquita as all, as Tom's going to try and get Chiquita for third place right now. Can he get it by the bus stop chicane and get the car stop in time as well? Asacombe is there as well. There we get a bit of contact actually, and this is an open invitation for Tom. We'll have to wait and see. We're on the final lap of this race then, all heading towards that source then. Asacombe to the right, Tom to the left. Who has picked the best line? We will see as we go up the hill, and we got Chiquita in there as well, as Tom gets past Asacombe up into second place. Incredible racing, and all of this has allowed Denurko to increase the gap to 2.3 seconds over his rivals. This is not what Tom wanted, but look at that. Asacombe is going to fight back. This is incredible racing for the final lap. This the race of knots has turned up here. That's Asacombe down the inside. Tom into let Tom, as Chiquita's been forced wide from Tom. Hopefully no contact. Tom has lost a lot of positions from it. That's not what he wants. Look at Valtters. He's back in this as well. Oh my word, so much has happened within this final lap. I can't even think straight at the moment as they all head towards No Name as well. There's plenty of other overtaking opportunities still to go. The bus stop chicane, campus, people can get the move done into Prawn as well. But obviously Tom is losing so much time to Asacombe, and Asacombe must have been loving that at the moment, as Louis has got past Cadiddle up into 8th position then of this race, but he's going to drop down due to the time penalties then. But we're watching Denurko as well, which was really hoping that there will be some squabbles happening in the background, and it did happen as well. He hardly has any ERS, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter. He pushed when it mattered for him, the Ferrari driver. He didn't get a good result in Miami or Austria due to penalties, but today is where his season is really started to turn up a gear for the Ferrari driver. Denurko crossed the line for the first time this season, wins in Belgium. Asacombe takes another podium. Tom gets his first podium of the season in third. Then we got Chiquita in fourth, Valtters in fifth, and we got Brock, who didn't convert his pole to a win, unfortunately, in sixth. Rowan in seventh, Rudy eighth, Fabi, another point scoring day for him, in ninth, and Louis is your final point scorer in 10th, because it just misses out, unfortunately. But my oh my, this just turned up again, the final lap. My oh my, it's just like people wanted to go for the moon now, but was I surprised? Not really.
Yeah, I was not surprised either, and that kind of strategy that Yukito and Asakone were playing is exactly the risk of what you go for if you're trying to wait for the final lap. If you're waiting for the final lap for a move, you leave yourself vulnerable to make a mistake and not getting the opportunity. Yukito had the opportunity multiple times in those last couple of laps to have a run at Danuko and then take the lead and try and hold on. By not taking those opportunities, he left it all to the last lap, and crucially, he made a mistake at the campus chicane on the penultimate lap that let Asakone through and let Danuko disappear up the road, which is why you can't, sometimes if you're confident in yourself you can try it, but you can't always leave these moves to the final lap of the race because the opportunity may never come, and the opportunity didn't come, and Danuko I think is very pleased about that one. That was a bit of a breeze at the end. It looked like it was going to be difficult, but at the end of the race it turned out to be very easy for him, and he ends up winning for the first time this season. Makes that 3 different winners out of the first 3 races, and yeah, he's had obviously not the results he would have wanted to start off the season, but like you say, that is definitely a kickstart for his championship as well. So yeah, really, really good, solid drive there from Danuko, and a lot of good drives throughout the field. And Tom as well, third with the fastest lap from 19th on the grid. What a recovery!
Yes, definitely. And I have to say, I don't think Tom will be expecting that after that poor qualifying as well. Sure, he was in the line to get the win, but to be honest, you've got to take the podium as it counts, because who knows what could happen towards the end of the season. We saw Tom struggle at the first half of last season in F2, and he still went on to win the championship and take 6 wins in a row. So it could still happen for Tom. It could still happen for any of these drivers. But for the final time then, here is your official results. Danuko wins the race from P2, Asakone in second, and Tom to add what's been a very good race for him. He also gets the fastest lap, and if you finish inside the top 10, that is an extra point. So he gets points for third place, which I believe is 10 points, plus 1 point for fastest lap. So that's 11 points for him today. Not too shabby for him. Yukito in 4th, Valter's 5th, Brock 6th, Rowan in 7th, Rudy in 8th, Fabi 9th, and Louis rounds up your top 10. And we've got Kazidl, Fasilio, Dezo, Namaya, H, Eagle and Jensen are your final finishers. We have 4 DNFs, and they are Ogiano, Mish, Romanino and Marcados. So that has been quite a crazy end to the Belgian Grand Prix. Aiden, who is your driver of the day?
Oh God, it's a difficult one, but I'm going to go for Tom. I'm not going to go for the easy pick and say Danuko. I'm going to go for Tom. I think that's a great drive from him. Of course, qualifying didn't go his way at all. Didn't have a good qualifying, but in the race, stayed out of trouble in the early phases. Took over the lead when everybody was making their pit stops. And yes, obviously luck favoured him with the safety car, but you've got to put yourselves in those situations to be able to benefit from it. Louis was out there in the same position as well, but Louis, of course, had a time penalty. Only ended up 10th. So you've got to make the most of those situations when they come to you, and Tom did that to perfection. Brilliant drive. Really, really brilliant recovery from Tom. When you've got to say the first 2 rounds, it's kind of been the complete opposite. He's had a great qualifying and a great start to the race, and then it's all fallen apart in the second half.
Well, to be honest, I have to agree with you, as I just left the chat for some weird reason. Oh my God, that was kind of a bit embarrassing. I apologise about that. Hopefully we will get some people in for some interviews as well to see what the drivers feel, how their race has gone as well. I would like to hear from the leader as well. But I think one other driver who I think has done well as well, I have to say, was obviously Danuko. Really timed that well with pulling away that safety car restart. I think he did a marvellous job to get those tyres up to temperature and caught everyone else off guard, including myself and Aiden, believe it or not, as well. And to be honest, he was so close to getting the win in the first few races. Had a few incidents in the first few races, but he just kept his head, he kept calm, he kept collected, and he won the race. And to be honest, I think it's a podium and a win well deserved, and I think it's not going to be taken away from him this time, so I think he's going to celebrate well tonight.
Yeah, definitely going to celebrate well. Like you say, it's the first half of the season. He's had the pace in the first 2 races, but just been plagued by incidents, whether it was damage early on in Austria that he couldn't really recover from, or like I say, an incident late on in Miami that cost him a podium in the stewards room. He's had the pace, but it's not been clean this time around. Much cleaner, kept it well out of trouble. We didn't really see him go for really any moves. He obviously went for the one move at the start of the race, passing Brock for the lead, but then since then he just managed it really well. He wasn't making audacious moves. He didn't need to. He didn't need to do anything bold on strategy. He just played it safe, and it played beautifully into his hands, and that is the exact mark of what a championship front runner can do. And we've seen him running at the front of championships in PSGL in the past, so we know he can do this on a regular basis. So yeah, I'd say now that Santeri gone, you've got to say that Denerko is now one of the favourites in this championship after his first win of the season. But again, other drivers to look out for as well. Philip Wouters, again, another top 5 finish, really solid result. Again, flew under the radar but kept it clean, didn't make any mistakes, picked up the points when he needed to. And Nikita as well, didn't get that podium, which is a bit of a shame on the final lap, but at least he's able to pick up his first points of the season, and it's a big turning point for both of the Williams pairs that they were a lot more competitive today, especially in Nikita's neck of the woods. So yeah, great to see the Williams pair now starting to perform.
Yeah, it's always nice to see someone who never has done well in the first few races and then to come alive really in a track that they love and get points. I think really just sets a mark for them for the rest of the season, and hopefully that pushes them going forward, hopefully, into the next round in Mexico City next week. Do we have anyone that's wanting to go in for our interview? Because I can't see my Discord at the moment. Do we have Denerko that wants to talk to us?
There's, unfortunately, at the moment at least, nobody in the waiting room. I don't think anybody wants to talk to us today, Jess. No, we're not not big fans of us today.
No, they're not. We had someone last week, didn't we? But we didn't have any in Austria.
Denerko, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll hang on for Denerko, because I think Denerko usually wants to have a bit of a speak to us as well. But don't forget, if you want to check out more PSGL action, we've had obviously the Monday tiers on already. We had obviously F2, F4, F6 earlier. And of course we had us, and then we had F3, F5 and F7. So if you want to check those all out after this stream has ended, please feel free as well. Surely it was quite insane as ours as well, especially on the final lap. My voice is probably still dead. But we've got Mexico on Wednesday with PCF1. We've got no George Morgan now, but we've got Dan Field and Jack Canard taking you through the action tonight on Wednesday night for PCF1. On Thursday, obviously, we've got PCF2, F3, F4, F5 and F6 with Luke Etheridge and Chris Buxton taking you through the PCF2 action. And then we've got the lower Sunday tiers on as well, with F9 being Logan and Jay Tyler being the top of that. And then, of course, we've got myself and Aidan taking you through the F1 action at 8 PM UK time. So I'm not going to wait any longer. We're going to end the stream there. Thank you to Aidan for joining me, as always. Thank you to everybody for watching the stream. Thank you to our title sponsor, GT Omega, and of course, Grid Rival, for all your support. We will see you same time next week, 8 PM UK time, for the Mexican Grand Prix. Have a good evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Was brought to you by GT Omega and Grid Rival, proudly supporting PSGL.